Good evening.
My name is Tom Ellington. I'm a professor of political science here at Wesleyan College, and I want to welcome you to our campus. Many of you, I see a couple of people who are local to the campus, but if this is your first time here, welcome. We're glad to have you. My task tonight is to introduce my good friend Fred Swann, and he gave me some things to say about him, but I'm going to kind of wing it here. Fred, first of all, is a great man, and he's my choice to be the next representative from the 8th Congressional District here in Georgia. Now, looking around, you're a little bit menacing. I can see why Austin Scott is afraid to talk to people like you. I want you to know that while Fred is a great friend of mine, at any time, if Austin Scott wants to come here and do a town hall, I will make that happen in this room. That offer is on the table.
Good luck.
Thank you. So just a little bit about Fred. Fred he works for Geico. He's a local boy made good. He has been active in the Bibb County Democratic Party for a number of years. He is currently also the 8th Congressional District Chair for the party, which has involved him doing a lot of work getting to know the district that he's going to represent very, very well. He also was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention last summer. So I think Fred has a lot going for him. I don't want to take up too much more time because Fred's going to tell you a little bit about himself, and then we're going to do a lot of Q&A. So please join me in welcoming Fred Swann.
Thank you. I'm just going to grab a mic here for sound purposes. Thank you. I was just handing the phone off because I'm going to try and broadcast some of this on Facebook Live. I'm also going to be doing a little video recording, so an edited version of some of these questions and answers will be going up on my channel as well. So I want to let you guys know what was going on. So I really appreciate everybody coming out this evening. I really want to take the time to let everybody know where I stand and what my reaction and the Democratic Party's reactions are to events that are going on in Washington. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. That's the biggest part of what I want. So there are two ways in which I want to hear from you guys, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in a little bit. First of all, this is going to be largely Q&A. I want to get questions from you guys. Secondly, I'm going to tell you about the paddles when I'm ready to move it on to the Q&A. So let me start by just telling you about a few of my beliefs. And that kind of gets your indication of what you may want to ask me, if you want to challenge one of my beliefs or you want to speak up for something you don't like what's going on in Washington or what have you. First of all, let's talk about healthcare. Now, I did a poll on this event asking people, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to talk about? Healthcare blew it out of the water. 2-1 to the next thing. It probably had almost as many votes as everything. It was set, I think 18 people total voted for healthcare. It was healthcare, obviously. We want to hear about it. So, obviously, the most recent bill presented by the Republicans that was passed out of the House, the American Health Care Act, I disagree with. And I disagree with both its intent and its execution, because I feel like repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act is the wrong way to go, first of all. But secondly, I feel like it doesn't even accomplish the task it was given. The task it was given was to increase coverage and increase affordable health care for more people. Bring down premiums, bring down deductibles, and what it's ended up going to do, it looks like, because we don't even fully know. I'm not sure if CBO scoring was finished on it yet, but what's that? I'm not even sure if it was finished yet where they voted on it, but we know that it'll take 24 million people, give them less coverage. 24 million fewer people with health care coverage. So that's kind of in the opposite direction of the universal health care and universal coverage that the president talked about while he was campaigning. So to me, this is a tax break in healthcare reform clothing. Because what does it do? It repeals a bunch of taxes, which sounds really good, but who is it repealing on? A little bit on us, but mostly on the 1% and the 0.1%. People who are in the 1% bracket will see a $33,000 tax reduction. The 0.1%, $178,000. We're not going to see anything near that. And all of that money that's coming, that was being put into healthcare to lower and reduce the lower premiums and lower deductibles, the hope was, is now going to be out of the system, and into pockets of people. And you hope that they spend it into the economy, but maybe not. Who knows? And I personally am very concerned. Maybe you share my concerns about that. Honestly, while I've been an advocate for not repeal and replace, but repair of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, because there are things we can do to make it do what it was supposed to do. If I had my druthers, and I have an opportunity here to tell you, I would rather enact a single payer system, because that is the best way that we know to ensure as close to universal coverage as we can get. And we know we can do it because we have systems that are single payer, and they are more efficient and have less fraud, waste, and abuse than private systems. We know this. This is not up for debate as to some grand theory. You can look at the numbers and tell that. So I guess my question to you is, and I'll leave you to think about this question before I move on to the next topic. Would you be okay paying more for healthcare coverage if they call it a premium instead of a tax? Because that's essentially what you're being asked to do. So the next point I'd like to talk about is infrastructure spending. I'm a big advocate of infrastructure spending. And apparently, according to his platform, so is the president. So that's an area where he and I agree, to a point. And if I'm getting to Congress, and he's still there, then I'm more than willing to work on him with infrastructure spending. But if you'll look at how he wants to implement infrastructure spending, it is rebuilding roads and bridges, largely toll roads, so that they are privately owned and they are repaired by people who use them instead of by tax dollars, the way most roads and bridges are now. And he only wants to spend $100 billion on that instead of the close to $1 trillion it would take to actually bring our infrastructure back up to where it needs to be, both for our safety and for our continued economic growth. Next, I would want to work to upgrade our energy grid to make it a true 21st century energy grid, ready to come online for the energy needs that we're going to have and the energy sources that are becoming available. And I'll talk about that in a moment, about increased use of wind and solar. We can do this. They keep saying, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. That's cost a lot of money. Where are you going to find the money? Well, where are you going to find the money to launch a bunch of rockets onto an air base in Syria? Where'd you find money to drop this mother of all bombs in Afghanistan? That I still have no idea why we did it. Maybe somebody will tell me. Lastly, the 8th Congressional District is a rural district, largely. There's part of North Bibb, and we also have Valdosta, but largely it is rural. I would like to see us spend some money at the federal level to begin expanding rural broadband internet access. This is not just some, let's bring luxury to these areas. Today, in the 21st century, broadband access is vital to economic growth and development. In the 19th century, we built railroads. Railroads were the way to get economic development. Where the railroad went, towns cropped up, and almost literally economic activity rode down those rails. 20th century, automobiles cropped up, state roads began going all over the place. And where those state roads went, again, towns cropped up, economic development flourished. Then in the middle of the 20th century, we again expanded by creating the Eisenhower interstate system. Same thing. Where there was an exit, a town would crop up, a gas station would crop up, a truck stop, and economic activity flows through them. Economic activity flows through Macon Bibb because we are at the elbow from Savannah to Atlanta, from a major port, soon to be the largest port in the southeast, to the single busiest airport. It's definitely in the southeast. I think maybe still in the nation. That's broadband access, but now that economic activity is going down fiber optic cables, and it can go anywhere. It can go literally anywhere. The problem is that right now, private industry builds out those cables, builds out that fiber optic. And I can tell you right now, I have a coworker who lives in Jones County, and he's got broadband access that comes right down his road and does not branch off because there's only a few houses and there's not enough activity, enough economic activity for the cable company to justify bringing fiber optic cable down his street. So this is an area where we can work on public-private partnerships, have some investment. And that's what I'm talking about. It seems like I'm talking about a lot about spend, 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 spend. I'm a Democrat. We do like to tax and spend, apparently. That's what I'm told. But I see the spending as investing in us, betting on us. It's about time we did it. And that's what I believe in. That's what I want to do. But I think we can do it if we do it in a smart, effective, and efficient way. Speaking of spending money, let's talk about education. So, we have the opportunity to make world-class classrooms throughout the nation. But what we have are these spotty pockets of really good education surrounded by places that are barely funded. Places that are basically resegregated based upon socioeconomic condition. And you may say, well, it's because, they're grouped in their neighborhoods, and neighborhoods are based upon prices. But if you look at some of these maps, they're more gerrymandered than my district. Sometimes they're just there to just cut people out. So we have a lot of problems with education. We have that. We have this need that we've had for a long time to try to make education like a business. Because we need to know that our dollars are being spent well, and we feel the need to make certain that educators are doing the right job, that teachers are doing a good job. But how can you tell? When one teacher does things one way, one teacher does things another, they grade just very differently based upon their plans, which gave rise to standardized testing. That's why there's so much standardized testing, because there was this push from both sides of the aisle, but really came down from a corporate mindset, to begin standardized testing. And we need to eliminate that. We need to re-empower our teachers, re-empower our communities, re-empower our local counties in order to give them the power to do the things that we need to do to raise the standards. Instead of bringing down these standards from on high, but they need money, they need support in order to do it. And they need standards that need to be met, that we can set, at least a base. Everybody in this nation will get this much education. If your community can do better, great. Share those great ideas. but we do need to set a base level of standard. But we also need to empower communities to find these solutions on their own. Teachers in their classrooms, principals managing their schools, superintendents and school councils, school boards of education managing their schools, and then garner and gather best practices. Again, we can do it. We just need to get away from this particular mindset that we've had. And another thing I want to mention before I move on, Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education. I wouldn't have had a chance to vote on her because she required Senate confirmation. I'm looking at the House. But I don't agree with people who try to shut her out of classrooms, try to shut her out. I don't agree with people who do that kind of protesting where they keep her out of there. Or, when she was booed recently at local, at the college. She needs to see some of these places, folks. She needs to see a public school, actually get inside of one, see what it looks like. She needs to visit a historically black college and see what kind of education it provides and see what kind of value it brings. She needs to be invited, hear what she has to say, and then maybe, hopefully, she'll hear some things that will help her do her job. This woman needs an education, so, But that's my bit on that. And lastly, the environment. Talked a lot about spending money. I talked a lot about job growth and economic growth. I feel like our debate has become kind of dishonest when it comes to the environment because we have been fed and we have bought into this false choice that you either have clean air and water or you got jobs. And somehow, if we put a few regulations on folks, a few protections on the environment, it's just going to tear up these jobs. And in some instances, maybe the EPA has been overzealous. And perhaps we can look and see, are current protections still necessary and needed? Do they hurt small business? Or do they hurt large corporations? And then again, what are we protecting? Donald Trump did a whole lot talking about coal miners. And, coal mining pays, I think, $80,000 in those communities. But it also is very damaging to them, very damaging to the environment. So I understand why they make that choice. But you're talking about protecting 76,000 jobs nationwide by allowing polluters to put coal dust in streams that go downstream, probably beyond where that community's economic influence is. So they're getting the money and extracting the money out of that river's pollution, and it's going down to somewhere else where they can't fish, they can't swim, they can't enjoy their community. Whereas, and I said I was going to mention this before, solar is set to create 300,000 new jobs across the country. Solar panel technology is getting cheaper and cheaper, continues to do so. It's a technology, and with all technology, it continues to get thinner, more effective, more efficient, and cheaper. I just saw a thing where Elon Musk apparently is getting ready in 2 years to begin selling solar roof tiles that he claims are going to cost just as much as actual roof tiles. And I'm thinking, if you're able to actually get solar power off of them, you may earn your money back. So these are the kind of things that we need to be looking at and investing in my opinion. But all of this is just my opinion. And I took up several minutes of your time giving you my opinion on these things. But I want to hear from you. So Teresa has graciously agreed to walk around and hand out a microphone. Everybody who came in today, you got a paddle. I told you I was going to explain this, now I'm going to. This is so you can tell me whether you like or dislike For my colorblind folks, green, red. If you need a little help, ask a friend. What is being said. And this could be about me, about the question, or the comment, or what have you. Tom, do we have time we have to be out of here?
Not really.
I'm here as long as you guys.
Make it 4 hours like that.
Yeah. I mean, I won't have as many people as he did, so maybe not. But I'm telling you, I'm here to answer questions. The rest of my evening, I want to answer questions. So if you have a question about me, or you have a statement about whatever's going on, I want to hear it. And Teresa's going to hand out the microphone. So please, by all means, just lift your hand and tell her that you want the mic, and I'll answer questions until you guys stop asking. All right, I'm throwing it to you. Is the mic on? Push it all the way up.
Okay, my name is Andre. My question is about the last point, environment. I wasn't clear one way or the other which way you were leaning. I have a personal concern, very deep concern about number 45, Trump threatening to pull out of the Paris Agreement. And it has a lot of ramifications, and even threatening the U.S. negotiating power in other areas beyond environment. How do you feel about that threat of this current administration to pull out of the Paris Agreement?
I disagree with it. I disagree with, let me be frank, to be clear, the administration's desire to pull out of the Paris Agreement. I feel like this is one area where we have worked for a long time trying to get countries to work together, to try and come together on these standards. And these standards are good, not great, but they're definitely a step forward. And the idea that he's going to come in and just bust up all this negotiation, what is it, 145 countries?
190 something.
190 something, it's a lot. Suddenly we're, instead of being the leader that we should be, we're just going to come in and wreck it all. Despite the fact that we still contribute 25% of CO2 emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. Because somehow we want to try to curb China and India, who are still just coming up to us in terms of economic development. So yeah, I disagree with it. I think that having that marginal increase in economic activity is not worth the cost to certainly my children in terms of the environment.
I'm just going to cut through the chase with everything. Every single time Trump has done something big, there's been legislation that has followed. If you read behind the lines with everything, Republicans force-feed nonstop legislation that is done on these midnight sessions and everything else. This is really what I'm looking for in someone who is not going to vote straight along party lines and everything else. What we need are a group of younger, like-minded politicians to come in and show the president that the power of the office of the president does not have the power that he thinks it is. And that, to be honest with you,
The power of the people really relies in Congress, and that the president is not able to bully his way through every single issue that happens. What we need is someone who's going to stand up to him and say, shenanigans, you are wrong. And nobody is doing it. I watch on TV every single day. So my question, because I like a lot of your viewpoints, I agree with a lot of what you have to say. My question is, are you willing to stand up and give me the opportunity to go to Washington? Because many of us here over the years have seen a lot of people that their intention is good, and then they get to Washington and see what the beast is. but it takes courageous effort to do the right thing and stand up for the right thing regardless. And right now, when I see a lot of people go to Washington, I see a lot of people that go to Washington and they just kind of follow the wagon with what everyone else is doing. Are you willing to be a part of the group of people that are going to go to Washington and do that?
I am willing to go to Washington and fight for the change we need. I am certainly willing to be more of a fighter than our current representative, who in a tweet, when the AHCA lost all the support and they had to pull the bill the first time, he tweeted, talking about the Freedom Caucus, they have betrayed the president and the American people with their vote. Now, mind you, I don't agree with Freedom Caucus. Obviously, I'm on the other side of them. But they stood for principle, and they stood up, and they stood for a principle. Not a principle I agree with, but certainly a principle. And that tells me our representative, I don't know what he stands for, other than the president being the number one priority, given that was the number one priority in his tweet. And you go look it up, because I have it on my page. That is exactly the order in which he put that tweet: the president and the American people. So that tells me two things. One, the American people aren't his priority. And two, he's just a rubber stamp for the president. Now, like I said, let me say I will fight for the things I believe in. That is in my nature. Some people tell me I may fight a little too much, to be honest with you. But there may be some time when the president slips up and does the right thing. He might. So in that time, am I going to treat him the way the other side treated my president when it was his time, when he did things that they agreed with once, but then once he was doing it, they disagreed, such as the Affordable Care Act used to be a Republican plan until a Democrat got a hold of it, and then it was socialized medicine. So I have to say, yes, I'm going to fight for what's right, but at the same time, I also have to stand up for making certain that if something comes along that's right, I support it as well. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
My biggest thing is just simply that we have people that say, no, Mr. President, this is not right. That's what it has to come down to. It has to be bold action taken by people like yourself that are courageous enough to do it.
All right, well, you got it.
You got my vote then.
Thanks. Grab a card on your way out if you haven't already liked my page.
My question's about the environment, and you talked about the, 76,000 jobs that were promised to the coal miners, and we could do 300,000 jobs for with solar energy, and that would be wonderful. That would be great for Georgia. But if you've ever been to West Virginia, there's not enough sunshine for solar power, and I know this isn't your district, but we do care about other people. And what plans would you have for people who would lose jobs because of environmental impacts?
One of the things that you have to look at with places like Appalachia, especially West Virginia, is that there are other ways in which, if they want to get on board with electricity, with power generation, that they actually have a lot of resources they can get into with wind, which is why expanding the energy grid and making certain that we have a 21st century grid that reaches all places, so that power generation can come from different places than we've ever had it before. That's kind of part of the reason why we want to upgrade and expand the grid, so that we can have more people contributing in more places in more ways. Honestly, coal mining is dying. It's on decline, and it's declining whether or not we sacrifice the environment for it. So at the end of the day, if we save 3,000 or 4,000 jobs to sacrifice our environment for the moment, I'm just not certain that's a good trade-off. There's no math there for me. So I would be looking at trying to invest in our energy grid in order to make certain that they then expand into rural broadband access. Because I'm not just talking about expanding for my district. We're talking about infrastructure spending across the country, phased in a phased manner in which we can afford it, but it's an investment, and they'll get that investment as well. And so they'll be able to then take advantage of other economic activities that don't involve energy generation. So that's two ways to answer your question. I hope that answers it. Let's grab her and come here and grab Daniel.
I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 25 years. I really want to know why for the first time, we own this issue. People are really upset, and I want to know because I know you're talking about working with him. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that's possible.
Probably not. I'm just an eternal optimist.
I just think he's out there. It's all about minimizing the damage. So for me, I mean, I just think he's out to destroy whatever had a Democrat and Obama's name on it. So I don't, right? And every time I hear Republicans say, we have health care, they can go to the emergency room, I want to throw a chair at the TV.
Right.
First off, that is emergency care. Go out to Madison Health and sit out there. We are a sickness-based health care system. So people are not treated till they're sick. That is expensive. And people don't come to the emergency room till they've treated themselves, they've called their mother, they've doctored themselves up. Now their diabetes is way out of control, the heart conditions, that's expensive. I'm not even talking about the morality of it. Forget the morality. It is expensive to treat people once they're ill. I want to see the Democrats take this issue. For the first time in years, this is our issue. And Obama's right. People like him more than they like Trump. Obamacare more than they like Trump.
Wow. Maybe you should run for office. I mean, really, you've really got a handle on it. I would say, yeah,
There's only two ways to fix this.
I think you've really summed up the issue. And especially when you hit on emergency room care. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad I have a medical professional who can bring it up. One of the reasons why we've had skyrocketing health care costs is because, previously we had the law where emergency rooms had to see you, regardless of your ability to pay, and then the government will pick up the tab. The emergency room care, just like you said, it's expensive because they do everything. They gotta check everything. So they run all the tests. It's emergency care, so that it's the things to save lives and save limbs.
Expand their Medicaid.
Right,
So that's expensive.
right. Georgia did not expand their Medicaid. That's that thing, but that's one part of the reason we've had spiraling healthcare costs, because our care is not well care. It's like you said, sick care. We care for ourselves when we're sick, so we don't have as many well checkups. That was one of the things that the ACA was supposed to help, was to create the ability to do more well checks so that you could have better health care, so you wouldn't have to go to the emergency room, or you wouldn't have to go to the doctor to have more expensive sick care.
And one last thing, I'm glad they booed you those over there, because she didn't come there to listen, she came there to lecture. If she wanted to learn something, she could have made an arrangement with somebody in the program and say, I want to sit here and listen to you. No, she stood up there and lectured those people. How dare she?
I definitely understand that position, because trust me, she makes me want to boo too, for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that's a big issue. But the problem, the reason why I mentioned repairing the ACA is because it doesn't quite do.
Quit lying to people. We have two ways of fixing this. You either do single payer, everybody's taxes go up, or you make everybody get insurance, which means you have a huge penalty, so that, young people don't want to get insurance. Why should they? They'd rather get a new computer. I'm not knocking that, but that's the way I felt when I was young. But you have to either force everybody to get insurance, or you do single payer. That's it. Quit lying. Quit saying there's some cheap way. There isn't.
You're talking my language. Trust me, I want to do Medicare for all. I would rather go ahead and increase taxes some by going to Medicare for all, but that tax increase would be less than the premium that they're no longer having to pay. And that burden is shared across the country.
Your price of your healthcare will go up in the short run. That's what even y'all saw with Obamacare until they started sabotaging it.
Yep.
You're right.
Yep. So there's nothing to keep insurance companies in check or big pharma. Because right now, they're running rampant with doing anything and everything they can because they're more concerned about profit margins than they are about insuring people like they're supposed to. That is the central problem.
And they take tax money to do their research.
And they have big lobbies.
That's exactly what it is.
Big lobbies. By the way, guys, I want to point out something real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to Daniel for his question. Those paddles you're holding, my wife made those. She just stepped out. I wish you could get the cheers because she just stepped out for a moment. But my wife made those. I have a friend who's doing video recording. I have another friend who's helping with the microphone. This is the most, right now, the most bare bones campaign out there.
I tried to
right
make
now.
Facebook Live, but there's no signal in here. So I tried twice and all that.
Fail. Wrong. Sad. But I'm not influenced by lobbyists. There's no PACs funding me. I mean, I'm looking for campaign donations. It's part of the reason why I'm doing these. But I want to get money out of politics. I think that PAC money, I think lobbyists are a huge problem. Citizens United, yeah, worst thing to happen to our democracy. And but maybe somebody asked me, I'll touch on that
hit on
later.
something that's extremely important that we have not talked about, none of the politicians are talking about. If you want the ACA to succeed, everybody must buy into it,
Yeah.
which means the young people. If you buy that car or that computer, particularly if you buy a car, you must have a driver's license. We don't mind requiring people to have a driver's license, requiring people to be part of the Social Security system. If you want the ACA to succeed, then what we have to do is be extremely honest up front. None of our politicians, Democrat or Republican, have been honest about that issue. And your taxes will go up some, obviously. But in countries that in Europe that look at the United States, when the ACA finally became the law of the land, and I was reading journals from England, from France, the first thing they said, well, America has finally come into the civilized world.
Well, not so fast.
So, if you
Hold my beer.
talk about any of this stuff, you must begin by being honest. We must all buy into it. That means the young people.
I agree completely. And honestly, tax policy is a dollars and cents thing, but it's also a moral thing, and it is a place where you put your priorities and say what your priorities are as a people. So if it really hurts your feelings to see your taxes go up a little, to make certain that your entire nation, the richest, most powerful nation in the history of the world, can make certain that its people have health care.
They're not paying taxes anyway. That is the truth. The top 1% can fund every single thing that we have and that we need.
And now the
top
age-
1% have 78% of the wealth in this nation.
And-
they don't pay taxes.
And now the AHCA is going to give them a huge tax break.
Yes.
Like I said, a tax break. I call it a tax break in healthcare reform clothing. And that's, I really believe that.
There's no country in the world that doesn't believe in healthcare or education.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good, Fred. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
You
have a lot of very passionate advocates in the room.
Yeah, I know,
and I
right?
don't want to interrupt that sort of thing. First thing, Fred, I want to applaud you for getting up there and having the guts to stand up and just even talk in front of a bunch of people. I think that by itself, not a lot of people have that gusto, so I applaud you for that. You also obviously have some passionate supporters in the room, so I'm going to do the unpopular thing of playing devil's advocate. I
want
agree
it.
with you.
No, I want it. Come on. That's why I seem to have a lot of people from one side, and I appreciate kind of the friendly questions. I do wish I had a few people who had some unpopular opinions, because really, I want to hear it all, so we can have an open and honest discussion about this stuff. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to switch up my question at the last minute here. So a lot of the issues I've seen lately have been animus about we have the most partisan divided nation in the history of the United States, possibly since the Great Depression. And a lot of people demonizing either the left or the right just because of their views. But I'm going to tell you right now, I could call up Austin Scott's field rep and have a beer with him and have no problem. I know him personally. He's actually a pretty nice guy. I think there's an issue with identifying these people as people. So I know that there's an issue with reaching across the aisle and working together on a lot of things, because sometimes you just don't see eye to eye ideologically. But in the halls of Congress, what is your tactic for actually remedying that issue?
I'm really glad you said that, because I think that is important to mention. I view a Republican that I'm against in a race as an opponent, not an enemy. I never will. And I've met the person who works in his field office as well. He is a nice guy. Been down to his office, treated us very nicely. With regard to how do you get anything done if you have divided government, which if I'm hoping we can create some divided government. Right now we have, single party government, and they're not getting a whole lot done right now. How do you get anything done in the divided government? Or how do you get anything done with reaching across the aisle without getting your hands slapped? For me, it's the same way that you do in everyday life. We all have places in which we can find commonality somewhere, some way. There is something that we can agree on. Start from that point of agreement and spread, and then move out and negotiate from that point. Even if I ardently disagree with another person's philosophy, if I will probably be able to find some way to get along with some of my fiscal conservative friends or some of my libertarian friends, because we'll find a point where we agree. And on that point, or maybe there'll be a bill that they have that I can support for this moment, and we'll be these momentary allies. Let's hold hands on this one thing and get it done, because we
They'll hold
agree.
hands with you, but they won't want a picture taken with you.
I don't care. I can get all the pictures of myself I want. I'll deal in the back room with them on that one thing, and then later on, we'll disagree about something else, and I'll find another ally.
Gerrymandering. Okay?
I was gonna
These
bring
people
that
don't
up.
answer to only one party because their district is Austin Scott answering to that core. Do you know how many people I've met in Houston County who tell me they're Democrat but don't tell anybody? Because it would destroy their business. And guess
That's-
what? They're right, it probably would.
But you know what, though? They're not as alone as they think they are.
No, they're not, but
I hear that all the time. I travel throughout the district as part of my
And you're right.
job with the Democratic Party
I
of
tell
Georgia.
people.
I can't stop hearing it. I'm so alone. Don't tell anybody about a
the
Democrat.
people are answering only to one party because their districts are gerrymandered.
And people don't vote because they feel like their vote doesn't count, it doesn't matter. When Austin Scott was elected, it was in 2010, and there was a wave election across the country of Republicans winning. He beat the Democrat Jim Marshall by, I want to say, what is it, 6 or 8 points?
Not much.
It wasn't much at all. But he hasn't had a contender since then. You want to know why? Because they keep saying this district is red. It's red, 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 red. It was red when Jim Marshall was in it, and he just barely held it. It's red now Austin Scott's in it, and he's holding it really strong. He gets 63% of the vote. Meanwhile, he hasn't really had a challenger, not a real strong challenger. I'm not saying that I'm yet a real strong challenger. We'll talk about what I need help from you to be a real strong challenger towards the end. But right now, we need to have somebody to fight, to say, is that true? Or are there people who aren't being heard and aren't being represented? And just traveling across the district, I would say there are a lot of people. So yeah, I've heard that a lot.
You have questions, Steve?
Fred, right here first.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Hey.
So before Obama left office, he was working towards making prisons no longer for profit. However, Jeff Sessions, he is not in agreement with that. So what is your personal position on that issue? I'm
totally in disagreement with the private prison industry. I don't think that prison should be privatized at all. Let me open this up. So, to me, private prisons create a perverse incentive for corporations to lobby at the state level and at the federal level to make more things illegal, to create stricter penalties, to try to get more mandatory minimums, so that we have more people incarcerated, so they fill more beds, so there's more of a need for them, so that, again, we're putting more money into these private prisons. This is a governmental function, if there ever was one. Punishing people for breaking the law is a function of the government. It should not be put to any kind of private industry. It should never be for profit. Like I said, it creates perverse incentives. And we see the results of these incentives. There is a definite prison pipeline, especially in lower socioeconomic communities, in minority communities. That's why drug policy is the way it is. Why marijuana is a Schedule I drug. Why it remains one. So yeah, I definitely am against privatization of prisons. I think it's not a good deal. It doesn't save us any money. It actually costs us more money, and it creates perverse incentives to criminalize people who would not otherwise be.
So I have a couple of points first, and then I'll get to my question.
Okay.
So, just on Fred's bravery, I'll just say that I think in our first meeting, because we sort of have these little political salons, we'll call them, he said, we were talking about this issue about how Macon Bib is blue, but you wouldn't know it because we're all real quiet. And we're not putting the bumper stickers on, and the signs in our yard, because there's this fear that we're in a red state and there will be retribution. And it sticks in my head that he said, I put a sign right in my yard because I just don't care. And it wasn't an I just don't care in a bad way. It was a, these are my principles and I'm not gonna cower. So that's just my personal endorsement of Fred. But beyond that, President Obama made what I feel like we're seeing is a corporate takeover of America across the board. A couple of things that I think that we did wrong as constituents. On the point about nobody sort of pushing back, that's not what I'm seeing now. I'm seeing the Democrats at the airports with megaphones and, trying to stop the Gorish nominate. See, I think they're fighting the way they never fought before. They're just in the minority. I think they're fighting really well, actually, and actually not doing too bad, given the fact that they don't control anything. But where I feel like I and we failed Obama is that we do not come out at midterms. So major disadvantage, you completely handicap even a really popular president when you don't. This is a liberal trait. We don't come out at midterms. We tend to focus on national issues. These are traits I notice in myself that I'm really learning this time around to sort of turn around. So those were just some. The other thing I think we need to do a better job with messaging is every reputable polling organization will say when they poll the country on issues, we are getting more and more liberal across the board as a nation on environment, gun control, everything. Somehow that's being lost in translation completely. That's a marketing issue. I don't know how you drive that message home. So most people will say it's a TV network, split with Fox and So those are just things where I think as voters, we failed Obama. The question I have for you, and this is very specific, and I don't expect you to have the answer, but how would you promote wind and solar in the 8th district? Are there solid opportunities that can be identified right off the bat? And for people that maybe are in fossil fuels, or I don't know much about coal and fossil fuels in the 8th district or in Georgia, I won't even lie and say that I do, but is there a plan to retrain, a solid plan to put out to retrain those people, or a proposal to get them into wind and solar? This thing is food for thought.
Yeah, well, I will say we do have a pretty big opportunity, at least in solar, throughout the 8th. If you ever drive through the 8th, like I said, it's rural. There's a lot of farmland, a lot of crops. There's a lot of also just empty fields. There's a lot of land, and we have a ton of sun. We got a lot of sunshine here. We do have a lot of trees. We also have a lot of fields that maybe are used for crops or aren't used at all. And we can certainly create tax incentives to try to use some more of this land in this way, try to build out. But the problem is that we really don't have, like I said, we don't have the grid that we need to really take advantage of those opportunities like we have. That's just icing on the cake. That's just the outside. There's a lot more that we can do that I want to drill into as I move along in my campaign. And as I get up there and start working with other partners who may have ideas that I haven't even thought about. But that's one thing that in the 8th, we have a huge opportunity in solar, I can tell you right now.
You should probably have a very large pushback from the fossil fuel industry when you try and do that, because they're making big profits from selling us oil and gas to run our electrical grids, and so that's...
Sure.
But the utility companies, for their future and cost savings and efficiency, are turning the other way. So there's a counterbalance to it. I mean, I think there's a great opportunity.
Sure,
And I think you could differentiate yourself too if we have a little bit more developed plans on maybe how to retrain people or recruit them into the industry.
But you're not wrong. This isn't a cakewalk. It's not like I could walk up and be like, hey, I got these ideas. What do you think? I'm going to have lobbyists who are going to be making attack ads on me just as soon as they get an opportunity. So, but I want to, before I go to anybody else, I want to touch on something else that you mentioned. You mentioned how Democrats don't perform that well in midterms. I want to ask everybody to kind of raise their hands at the following things. Who here knows the name of the President of the United States? Show of hands. You don't have to like him, you just know his name. All right, who here knows the names of both your U.S. senators? Okay. Who here knows, who here knows the name of your congressman? You may be in my district, you may be in another one. Who here knows the name of your congressman? Who here knows the name of the governor? Who here knows the name of your state representative? Got a pretty good crowd here. We got a few hands that didn't come up. Who here knows the name of your state senator? Who here knows the name of your county commissioner? As you can see, we have a lot of hands. This is a very politically engaged crowd. They're decreasing as they go down. And that's because the higher up you go, the more attention it gets. And the more attention it grabs. And that's why presidency, Democrats, they just go with what grabs the attention. So you're going to get more during the presidential years. And Republicans tend to be a little more diehard, and they vote down the ballot. And so you do have that kind of off your thing. They are generally a more dedicated group. But that's one, we need to continue to educate ourselves down the ballot, down to school board and county commission, everything. If you don't know who represents you, find out. It's not that hard. But another thing that I want to point out is that part of the reason why I've taken this step is because I believe we have an opportunity. I believe that the Trump administration has shown a complete incompetence and ineptitude to the point where people, if they really love him, they'll vote for him. If they kind of voted for him, they kind of liked him, they may stay home. Maybe they'll vote for somebody else, but they may stay home. But we're gonna see a lot more energy out of people we've never seen before. I'm gonna tell you, there are groups cropping up, such as Central Georgians for Progress, such as Georgia Women and Those Who Stand With Them, such as all the indivisible groups, and they are people I've never seen before this year. But now they're involved, they're engaged, they want to participate, and I think you're gonna begin seeing that more and more as we go on, as they continue to fumble their way into whatever inept thing they're trying. And so, yeah, we need to get out, but I think you're seeing that already. And we need to continue to push it. We need to continue to speak, we need to continue to encourage our friends to come out to events like this and other events. But I think you're gonna see more energy coming down as we get to 2018.
I just wanted to touch on what you had said. I attended the Democratic town hall that was held here a couple months ago, last month, whatever it was.
I think it was last month.
Stacey Abrams made the point that Republicans will vote for Mickey Mouse if he's on the ballot. The Democrats will say, I don't think I like Mickey Mouse. I'm either not gonna vote, I'm not gonna show up, or maybe I'll vote for the third party candidate, and we have to stop doing that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
We have to stop it.
What does Fred say? You say
Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. It's a trite but true statement.
Yeah,
Tom.
Fred, you need some money, right?
I need some money. I was really gonna mention that before we left, because I wanted to be fresh in your minds, but I need money.
And how can they give that to you?
I have a crowd pack. I don't know if you guys know what crowd pack is. Crowd pack is PAC, just like the super PAC, just like regular PAC. This is where the people can create a PAC. It's online, www.crowdpack.com/C/Fred Swann for Congress. I also have some cards in the back. Rebecca, hold up the cards, please. If you grab a card on your way out, it has my crowd pack address. It also has my Facebook page, my campaign's Facebook page on there. But you can pledge on there, and when I reach my goal, no money will be taken out until I reach my goal. At that point, then I'll take the money, put it in my account, and begin spending it on the campaign. But I really like Crowd Pack because it is a way in which the common person can be involved and engaged, and they're not going to get pushed out by PACs, special interests, and lobbyists. If you have a candidate who's really dependent upon something like Crowd Pack, you know they hear you. I know. I've received $2,600 in donations so far. I know every single person who's donated to me. Not that I know them personally. I know most of them personally, but I know everybody who's donated to me because I see that. This isn't like you're donating to some shadowy PAC, and then that PAC shovels some money at me, with a steamroller. So, yes, if you really like what you're hearing tonight, please grab a card. Please pledge. Every dollar helps.
What's your? Can I say one more thing, Fred?
Let me answer this question, and you can say one more thing. My funding goal was $150,000, and I'm gonna tell you that's a lot of money, but it's not even close to what you need to run this race. That's enough to get me started, make me a viable candidate, so that I can then begin attracting Democratic donors, begin from outside the district, kind of like John Ossoff is doing now.
Daily Coast funded him.
Daily Coast blasted him, and by the way, if anybody knows anybody at Daily Coast,
They fund him.
they do fund him, and they also blasted him. Got his name out.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. If you know anybody at Daily Coast, give them my name. Like they put him on blast. Like they were like, psh, all over. So if you know anybody at Daily Coast, please get a card in their hand, please. Tom?
Right. I don't think any of us in here have the deep pockets of a Robert Mercer or a Charles Koch or any of those people. But there's a lot more of us. And you may not be able to max out, but you can give $20. Or if you can't give $20, you can give some of your time. And I'm not just talking about Fred here, I'm talking about people that you care about that you need in office. So you've already spent an hour with us. I would encourage you to make that commitment that you're going to give something of yourself for the outcomes that you care about.
Oh wait, but behind you.
Well,
Sorry.
You know my history.
Yes.
And you know how I am about candidates.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you something, I'm just sick and tired, either side, of you coming out and doing all these things when you want our money, but you don't keep doing them, because I think the more you're out there with people one-on-one, and I know it's sacrifice for Rebecca and the family, they won't see you for months, but I really do think the way you're gonna win is to get out there and just wear your car out with people. Because I think one-on-one, the more you talk with people, the more you know your district. Austin Scott has never done anything like this ever. And I get real irritated seeing politicians that the only time they're coming around talking to us is when they want money from us. And I'm not gonna give to a politician like that. I wanna see you out talking to everybody, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, because if you win, you represent everybody in this district in the state of Georgia. And that's the commitment I want from you before I'm gonna commit to anybody, is that you're gonna stand there and say, if I get elected, I'm representing everybody in the state of Georgia when I go up there.
I'm really glad you brought that up, and I did not plan.
Not my Republican friends at my Missionary Baptist
Right.
Church.
Right. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, and I didn't plan to, despite the fact that I really feel like I could just like knock that one out of the park, because I will make that pledge to you. The pledge I want to make to you is that if I'm elected, I want to do these town halls throughout the district, and I'm planning some now. I'm planning some in Tifton. I'm going to head down to Valdosta later on in the month and next month. But if I'm elected, when it's time for Congress to recess, I'm going to be doing these. I'm going to be here in Macon, I'm going to be in Tifton, I'm going to be in Valdosta, I'm going to be in Cook County, I'm going to be in Wilkinson. Or if my lines change in 2020, after the census, I'll be wherever the district shifts to. But that's what I want to do. I like this. This is actually kind of fun. I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, Fred's very courageous." I appreciate that. This is kind of fun for me. I like talking to y'all, and I think I want to do this more and more and more. I make the commitment that I will do these town halls when I am in recess and here. Sorry, baby, maybe not as many vacations. And I know, right? She's like, "I want to take you." And I want to expand the use of things like, maybe not Google Hangouts, something like that, where we can begin doing tele town halls, not when we're in recess and you should be in your district talking to people, but when you're in DC and you're like, "Oh, I've got tonight free, I don't have an event, let me schedule something for that," where you're talking to more and more people. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to do that whether or not I've done something everybody likes or whether I've done something everybody's ready to yell at me for. That's a commitment I make. So if you elect me, if you help me get into office, and then I don't do it, vote the bum out. Get rid of me.
I want to say something about that. And this is more in response to what you have said. The reason I'm here today is because, one, I'm not very politically active. I'm more of an observer, not just for Georgia, but for what was going on in Holland, the Germany, France, the UK, Virginia, France. I was just like all the way. But two, again and again, I kept running into you. Every time there is an event, Fred is there. Okay, my wife is more politically active, and we've had these resistance meetings at our home, and every time Fred showed up.
You have a lovely home, so what do you want me to do?
Fred's been showing up for a long time.
There was this meeting at that Mexican restaurant. There he was. So every time there is an event, Fred is always there. So when my wife said, "Okay, Fred is having a town hall generous, I don't go to these kind of things. I say, oh, Fred, I'll go. So believe me, he's going to be there. He's going to wear out his car tires. See that?
Like I said, I love these kind of things. So thank you for that. Thank you for mentioning that.
I think
But
you also have to be realistic. It's very expensive. You're probably gonna end up taking money from a PAC because you have to survive, you have to get through the campaign. I went to Sanford Bishop's Town Hall Tuesday night, was it? And he said that's the realism of it. You have to run every 2 years, you have to have the money to do it. And they're probably, if you make it to Washington, they're gonna put you in an office and say, every Tuesday, you're in here calling for money.
you're not
And
wrong.
I'm sorry for this lady who says every time all you're ever doing is asking for money, but every 2 years is a lot, that, it comes around really fast.
Well, Fred knows, my grandfather was a U.S. congressman, and, but way back in the day, but when he was home, he was in his district, getting out, meeting his folks that voted for him.
Right, and
That's
that's the difference.
That's the thing,
You don't.
it's like, I know it takes a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
but if you,
And yeah, I'm gonna have to ask for money.
I'm
That's just the
convinced,
case.
Fred, if people can meet you one-on-one, they're gonna vote for you.
That's true.
Because you have a
That's
good
true.
grasp of the issues that are going on
Yes.
here and going on nationwide.
So how do we get more people
They
to
need
town
you,
halls?
they're
Even more.
It's more just getting out, every time he goes somewhere, he needs to be saying, I'm Fred Swann, I'm running for Congress.
Right.
But we also need to be doing that too.
Right.
I think, the Democrats need to come out of the closet and announce that
They
they're
do.
here. Because a lot of times I find if I frame an issue without giving it a political tint, people will agree. You know, when I talk about, as a nurse, a pre-existing condition, everybody has one. Almost everybody has one.
Mhm.
You know, diabetes, asthma, those are pre-existing. People can agree to that. So you find something that's not, so partisan. And then you say, well, I'm a Democrat. And then they're shocked because they think you should have orange on your head.
Right. Well, but that goes to the point of how you get some agreement. Is you find somebody who's not just ready to score points for our team, but really wants to get something done, and you find a point of agreement, and then you build out from there. And that's exactly what you're
But
talking
I was
about.
listening, I can't believe I'm quoting Bob Dole, but he was talking about, one thing that he thought had changed, probably when he knew Bob, was that the money. And he said it is so much money that we used to be able to argue and then we'd go have lunch together. We don't. We don't stay in Washington. We rush back to make money. So we're not connecting with constituents. We're not connecting with each other. They would have arguments and then they'd go to lunch. No, they can't be seen with each other. If you're, listen, this is a true story. I had a booth at the Perry Fair, and I had a life-size Obama, well, not life-size, but a cutout of Obama there. A friend, I'm not gonna say who it was, but a local congressman who was a Republican came by. And when he realized for a second there that he was standing next to Obama's cutout, he jumped away before I could take his picture. I was like, really, it's not contagious.
But you know why? It's because one, their donors punish them for that,
Right.
but two, their voters and their constituents sometimes punish them for that.
Right, because they're gerrymandered districts.
Right, and there's so much vitriol that has been spewed out by the media and a lot of times by our politicians that the people now are so entrenched in these two parties and these two teams winning that if a lot of people, when I have said I could work with the president on things, and I will stick with that. If the president says something that I can get on board with, I will work with him. Despite the fact that I don't actually think he's a very nice
But
person.
I want to say this. I'm tired of Democrats saying everybody's saying they're just as bad. No, we're not.
No,
Okay.
that's
Yeah, I
we're
don't-
not.
messaging.
I'm sorry.
But what I'm saying is that
Quit throwing yourself on that sword.
But what I'm saying is that But the point I was getting at real quick is that I get pushback from my liberal friends. You would work with him. I mean, he's so horrible. And I'm like, then how are we going to get anything done? We're in the minority. I mean, seriously.
I think if he became unreasonable and reasonable, you would work
Right, exactly. If he stumbled onto something that I can get on board with, and this isn't just, I'm going to find something somewhere I can get on board with him. But he's somehow stumbles backwards. Like if somehow he starts doing the infrastructure spending he was always talking about, I can somehow convince him to do it right instead of the way he was doing it, I'll work with him on that.
Right.
And that's what we've got. But we've got to have more people who are going to do that, and we've got to hold both teams accountable to that. I don't care who you are. That's my personal view. It always has been. I want to work with you kind of guy. I will fight for my principles, and I will fight against things that I disagree with, but I'm not going to fight you because you're on the other team. I don't think this isn't a team sport, or it shouldn't be. This is about real people's lives. Let me get John. Then I get
One thing I
Gail.
was going to say, and this kind of piles on to a couple of the things we've been talking about, is the whole messaging idea that Democrats just are not good at keeping a consistent message. And I don't mean something that's like carved in stone, you don't budge. Although we've seen lately, I think with the way things are going, Democrats in Washington have gotten to a point where I think maybe they should be like, okay, the Comey firing. Okay, don't agree to move forward on anything else for a while. Okay, you do have to stand for some principle at some point. And I think we're starting to see that, and I think with the get-togethers, rallies, and all the things that are going on, they're definitely more empowered on that. But the messaging is a problem, and they've allowed Republicans to control the message for years.
Yep.
I mean, if you look at Obamacare, for example, Obamacare, right? That was supposed to be a negative thing, right? And it's
Right, because
not.
Obama's bad, so this is bad. Right.
But I watched the media go with it, and they would run with every single criticism of the right and never explain. And this is partly journalism, but it's partly someone's got to be getting the message to the media in general to better explain what the heck is going on with what does this mean?
And I'll
They
say,
let them run with death panels for 4 years.
yeah,
And it was ridiculous.
You're right. I will say this: the Obama administration. I have criticism of the Obama administration. I liked Obama. I voted for him twice, but I also hold his feet to the fire on a few things. And then one of the things I hold his feet to the fire on, or at least his administration, is the messaging and the rollout of the ACA. They didn't really explain it very well.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi didn't explain herself very well. She kind of had a foot and mouth disease when it came to the ACA sometimes, especially that we gotta vote on the bill to find out what's in the bill. If you actually get the whole quote, she's actually taken out of context there.
Right.
She's not saying what they say she said. But regardless, it's enough of a soundbite where she could be demonized. And the Obama administration never got out in front of it like they probably should have. And they created this omnibus thing so that they could have this thing where they wheeled in this huge bill. Oh my gosh, I can't even carry it, so I gotta wheel it in. Look how big it is. So therefore it must be horrible because it's just full of just communist stuff,
Right.
filled to the gill.
Right.
And they really, if they really wanted to get that done, they should have done it in a more piecemeal way. I know some people say you never would have gotten it done. You would have got some of it done.
Yeah.
But the way they did it, they opened it up to a ton of criticism. So,
When you have somebody saying before your inauguration, our number one goal is to get you out of the White House.
yeah, no, yeah.
I mean, you were already.
Absolutely.
And I believe.
He didn't have any friends
And
on
some
the
of
other
that
side.
is true until you tell me if that is true, the messaging is wrong. How is Trump? His message is nuts. Yeah. and you're
Yeah.
right. Thank you. That's right.
Yeah,
The media turned this whole election into a combination of ESPN and Entertainment Tonight.
well, we had a
There really
reality
was no
star.
analysis going on.
Right, we had a reality star as one of the candidates, and quite frankly, he was a hit with ratings because you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth.
Right.
But by the end, I really believe that people were kind of just over it. They were. That's kind of one of the reasons why this was one of the lowest presidential participation elections in 20 years or something more. It was a lot, and People were just over it. They were sick of it. The media had blasted it in such a way and framed everything in such a way that, oh, that's my son, everybody. In such a way that people were just sick and tired of it. It was a pox on both their houses was a huge thing. And people were like, the two candidates are exactly alike. Little history on me. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter early on. I wasn't like really like, you know, woo, but I did vote for him in the primary. But then when it got close and I realized he wasn't going to cross the finish line, I switched over to Clinton and became a Clinton delegate to the national convention, because at the end of the day, she was miles better than anybody they had on the other side, in my opinion, in terms of the things that she was fighting for. So I think that we need to. What's that?
We need to get young people.
Yeah.
And we need to get minorities, and we need to get, Democrats need to quit assuming, and I will tell you, I live in a very conservative area, and most of those young people are not their parents conservative, okay?
Yeah, they rarely
So we
are.
have a chance to get these people, and we really need to reach out to them.
Well, the other thing that we're not talking about here is that if there's something really wrong, and I'm not proposing we can fix that tonight, when the candidate wins by 3 million votes and is not inaugurated, like that, we actually won. I mean, by any rational standard.
Way beyond our fixing part.
That I'll tell you, I don't like the Electoral College. I've heard its defenders. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's an antiquated system, but you know, you agree to the rules. You play to the rules you agree with when you start. So when you start the election, you can't come back and say, "Oh, I didn't like those rules." So, but I agree, it's a very antiquated system. And these lines are drawn for these congressional districts in such a way as to keep people in power. I think it's a 93 to 98%, something like that, recidivism rate for Congress people for re-election. I use prison term because, you know, some of these people, maybe that's where they belong, I don't know.
Maybe we should have term limits then.
You know, I can get on board with term limits.
Parliament seems to run a whole lot better than our Congress does, and they have term limits, and it seems to be that they can get stuff done because of that.
I could actually get on board with some term limits. The issue that you find is that you sometimes have a loss of institutional knowledge. So, right, there's a huge learning curve. So there's a plus and a minus to that.
I would
But
like to get rid of the gerrymandering. That is the thing. I can see us doing this. That is a doable thing. We need.
push. There was a bill in the Georgia legislature this past year There was a bill in the Georgia legislature this past year to create a nonpartisan panel to draw the lines. It didn't go anywhere. So, and elections are done by the states.
Yeah, I think
So-
a lot of people don't realize that your districts are not controlled at the federal level. It is solely here at the state level. And if you want that change, you got to sit on top of your state legislature. Because
Right. Exactly
they
right.
go in at the last minute and decide, oh, well, this person that might run against me lives on this street, so I'll swap that with yours. I mean,
And it's not right that
the legislature draws the line. It doesn't.
it's not right that legislature draws the lines, and it's not right that politicians pick their voters instead of voters picking their legislators. That's not right, but that's what we have. But that's controlled at the state level. So get on with your state representative, your state senator, find out about that bill, see if it can be revived in next year. We're still in the same session, so maybe it can be revived if we get some heat on it, some people wanting to push it through. But I agree completely, 100%.
So I just wanted to say something about that and about the lack of turnout. I'm relatively new to Georgia, I've only been here for 2 years, but I always make it a point to make sure that I'm registered wherever I live, because I've been brought up to pay attention to politics.
I will say,
And then the primary in July, when everyone's on
When
vacation.
nobody's here.
right,
Right.
yeah, and the county commission, the votes for the county commission and local elections. Yeah, I agree.
The way that gerrymandering bill is HB 515, State House District.
Oh,
Okay, so
and if I could add,
those bills too, so we
if
know-
you
Yeah.
want to,
HB, for those who didn't hear it, HB 515.
Yes, and it was tabled in March.
Well, yeah, because everybody wants to be able to draw their district.
Yeah, so the signage guide has already passed, so we'll have to wait until the next.
Right, so, but it can be revived in the next year.
Yes, yes.
It's not dead. It can be revived. Yeah, yeah.
okay, just to, for one, if y'all want to text the resist to the phone number 50409, it'll walk you through, and then you can put your zip code, and you can send a fax to your representative or senator via text. And then it'll send you a picture of your fax to the representative. I just want to ask first though, does everybody know, and I'm assuming we're all Democrat or left leaning in the room, I'm assuming.
For the most part.
For the most part. I haven't heard any Trump yet, so I'm assuming we're all friendly. Does everyone here know who their county Democratic committee chair is, by any chance? My name is Galen Jacobs. I'm 30 years old, and I'm the chair of Monroe County Democratic Committee. And it started out with him, as a matter of fact. Because I started out a group because I got tired of being barraged and attacked for being outspoken and unapologetic liberal. And so I started up a little Facebook-friendly group. We can chit-chat and talk to each other. And he and Sarah Todd, the vice chair of county affairs, said, Galen, I need you to call me immediately. And I was thinking, oh my God, I did something wrong. What did I ever step on somebody's toes? And I'm like, you don't have a committee in your county. I said, well, sure, we do. No, you don't have one. Do you want one? Well, if there's a ball on the field, then we need to pick it up and run with it. But what I'm getting at is we put too much weight on federal and state level representatives and senators. The power is in your community, is in your county. We had a county commissioner, we have the Indivisible group that asked about a permit to demand Trump's tax returns. And he said, I think that these people that destroy property are horrible. What we should do, and I quote, is get a submachine gun and mow them all down. I've got the videotape. That's coming up next year. Don't worry about that. But you've got to be a strong liberal. I'm sick of apologizing.
Yeah.
You're not the party of morals. You're not the party of Christianity and what that religion stands for. Stop acting like it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to apologize for you stand in your truth and you stand strong. And that's everything that I've known Fred to be. And I'm being as legitimately truth. He knows I don't sugarcoat crap. If you don't want the answer, don't ask me the question. It's a pretty simple solution to the problem. But there's two things I would like to ask you, sir.
Okay.
One, I would like to know where you stand on Black Lives Matter.
Okay, Black Lives Matter.
And
I mean, that's the answer.
We need to hear you say it. And
I know. Say their name.
We need to see your birth certificate to certify that you're born here. And
I'm pretty sure I know what that is.
But we've talked a lot, and I've gotten to know him really well on a personal level. What got you into politics to begin with? I know for me, it's sick of the status quo and accepting that this is the way that things are going to be. This is how we're going to operate. What got you to want to be the 8th chair? Because I know it's way more than ever. You can have that one.
It's just, I've always kind of been interested in politics. And so I wanted to find out more. And actually, the Big County Democratic Party used to have these social gatherings that weren't county committee business. And I saw about them, I think, on Facebook. And I was like, oh, I want to go check that out. I started going to it. And Steve Allen, who was the chair at the time, noticed me coming to these events. And I was just hanging out. I was having an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, don't do
having a
that.
glass
You're
of
gonna
wine.
get sucked in.
That's exactly correct. If you don't want to be active, don't come to events. Please come to events.
We need you, please
We need you,
come.
please. Don't listen to me. But seriously, he was like, we're about to have elections. Do you want to be a part of our party? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Sounds fine. So they had elections. I stood for one of the chairs, and they elected me to one of the post seats. And from there, I got involved in the executive committee. And from there, there was a couple of years later, a seat came open to the state committee. The state committee, the state committee for the Democrats, the committee is made up of seats from the county. So each county has a certain number of seats, and currently Bibb County has 4 because of its population. And one of them came open, and so we had an election. I was like, I'd like to try for that. Why not? That sounds neat. And I got elected. I got involved in the state party as a committee member. And then our 8th Congressional chair at the time decided she was going to run. I did that for a couple of years. Then our chair decided she was going to run for the state party treasurer. So she left her seat, and I was like, I'd like to give that a shot. And so I ran, and I was elected to that. And that's just kind of how it went. And that's kind of how it went for me this entire time. I know some people, it's getting kind of late. I'll continue going as long as people will go. But I want to mention one thing real quick. If you want to keep up with my campaign, please sign in at the back. I want to make certain that if you like what you hear, you have a chance to sign in. If you don't want to sign in, I haven't trapped you by having you sign in as you come in. This is your opportunity to back out now. But if you want to hear more, please give me your information. I'll make sure and keep you up to date. And also grab a card with the Facebook information and the crowd pack information. But yeah, so that's how I got involved. It's just they suck you in, and they keep drawing you in further and further and further. The more you will give, the more that politics will take. And I want to give, and so they'll keep on taking. So
And to add to that, speaking to a lot of different counties and stuff, with me being young, I'm pretty Facebook fluent and social media. I even found an app where I can change our party's Facebook on my phone while I'm at work. I'm like, oh, I forgot that. I did our calendar. Or here's a Google Map link so you can tell where we're meeting at or whatever. But that's besides the point. But the counties need you, like legitimately. Like I have 2 post seats that you can officially join the committee that I can't fill. I can't find anybody.
Bibb County's the same way. Bibb County's the same way. All their post seats are not full right now. Their chair's name is Harold Franklin, and if you are interested in being a part of the party, they do still have some availability there as well.
And if you're in Monroe and you want to join, feel free to come tackle me.
They filled a couple of seats at the meeting this week.
Yeah, but they're not. They're still not.
You don't have to be in a post seat to be active in the party.
That's true. That's correct. Yeah, go to meetings. Find out when the meetings are. Bibb County meets the first Monday of every month, and if you want to get involved, you can just show up. I encourage people to get involved in the Democratic Party. That there again, if you are a liberal-leaning person but who does not like the party structure, by all means, there are other groups that you can be a part of as well. You can also. I will take all those votes if they want to vote for me and follow my Facebook page. I'll take people of any party. I don't care who you are, as long as if you agree with me and want to see me succeed, But yeah.
Because I just don't know about this. You, Galen, seem to know a lot about it. But in terms of the gerrymandering, we know that at least I have read. I'm not Georgia native, so I won't claim to be an expert. But the 6th district is really gerrymandered for race.
Yes.
Are we? Is the 8th?
Yes.
Are we similar? Like, is it as bad or?
Making a split in half.
We are making a split in half. That's one of the things you can know is that the 8th district covers Monroe and Jones County in the north, comes down to Bibb, takes just north Bibb because it wants those Republicans.
How convenient.
Comes around, grabs Houston and
It was specifically written for Austin Scott.
It was specifically written for Austin Scott.
It was tailor-made for Austin Scott.
Which is why he doesn't do these things. People keep saying he doesn't do these things because he doesn't want to talk to people. He didn't have to.
No, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to. He is the participation trophy candidate.
So every 10 years, the districts are redrawn. So in 2010, when the Tea Party was, sweeping across the country, they won all those seats, and they were able to redraw all those maps.
So he
because they
won.
won power.
He won a
But
somewhat more competitive
Republicans
district.
had already taken over the governor's house
Right.
here, so they were already
They were
tweaking
ready.
because they were tweaking Marshall's district
Right.
and John Barrow, and
Yes.
I'm trying to think of the other guy. I mean, they managed to get rid of the intelligent congressman we had in the state in Washington.
But one of the things that bears I should tell people is that I've thought about doing this for a few months, and ever since I saw this surge of people, and that gave me hope that we would see a blue wave come through after we all had the sad moment in November of 2016. But I've reached out to a few professional political operatives who run campaigns for a living, and some of them told me straight up, don't do it, don't run. Not because they didn't believe in me, they liked me. They were just like, don't do it. The district's too red, it's too difficult. Don't do it, because when you run, your people will see you. If you lose, they will see you as a loser. So don't do it. I'm giving you a little bit of inside baseball on this one, just so I can show you where I am. People told me don't run, not because they don't believe in me, but because they don't believe in the district. And honestly, I just think the district's a little different than everybody thinks it is. We just haven't given them a fight in such a long time with some real progressive values that everybody, working man values, and anybody who cashes a paycheck can get behind, or anybody who runs a business with just a handful of employees. That's what I believe in. That's the party I believe in.
Hell, I'm a truck driver. I think it's.
Right.
I mean, that's what the party is.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago, you may not have heard of the name Emmanuel Macron. He didn't even have a party. He was neither. Okay, I don't want to get into that detail. En Marche, his party was created only a year ago. He's today the French president. So I will encourage you, don't listen to those people who say
And that's because he rode a race of a tide of people who were tired of the two parties that had been representing them. And so if you'll notice, I think the people who ended up, the two parties who were normally in power in France, ended up being third and fifth in the presidential election. And so I think there is an appetite out there for something a little different. I'm a Democrat. I believe in Democratic principles and values. So people were just like, I don't like Democrats, so I don't like you. I get it. But if people want a Democrat who's a little different, then I'm your man.
There is a change in the wind.
Yes.
So one of the things, because I live in Houston County, how has the Republican Party just appropriated military and veterans? I mean, they don't really stand up for them. So it's like, I think maybe
because we have equated military spending with being pro-military and being pro-military families somehow, and being patriotic and pro-defense.
They appropriated God and patriotism. They wrapped themselves in the flag
Yeah.
and held on to the
He goes
Bible.
back to the Cold War.
Well, let me just say something on defense real quick. I'm not going to be someone who's going to be slashing the spending a lot. I don't believe we can do that in our community. My district has 2 Air Force bases, and it's adjacent to a Marine depot. So, but we need to make sure that our military spending is smart. It should be directed by the generals and not by the military contractors. Hey, we got a new airplane we can build in your district if you'll just go ahead and vote on it. But the generals are like, that thing's a piece of garbage and we don't want it. You want it. We're gonna build it. Yeah, you're gonna get it. Come on, you'll get it. And that's what it becomes. We need to be smart about how we're doing that military spending. And that's the thing that we've not been asking of our representatives. But more importantly, we're spending so much on the military, we're spending so much on defense and on hardware. What about our families? What about our military families? What about the military families who don't make even enough to get by? What about our veterans who have to wait in line in order to get the medical care we promised them? Or to get the benefits we promised them? Why isn't that a higher priority? Why isn't that the number one thing? I mean, seriously, I'll cut some spending somewhere else if I can increase spending on veterans. Veterans, we made a promise to them, and I don't think we keep it like we should. I know we don't, and that isn't a pox on both their houses. Both parties need to do a better job on that. I believe in that very fervently.
I think we're hemorrhaging people.
Yeah, I think we're starting to end here. So
you deserve a round of applause. So I want to make sure you get
So I'm going to close this out because people are beginning to peel out, which that's what I said. As long as people ask questions, but I'm going to stick around once I adjourn if anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one about anything. But just please sign up in the back if you're interested in continuing to find out about the campaign. I have my campaign Facebook page. If you are able to pledge, please make a pledge at my crowd pack. Please tell other people about this campaign, about what it's about. That is the only way we're going to get any traction. I don't have a staff. So if people send me messages on my Facebook page, right now, I'm answering them. And I think I'm getting pretty good. I think I've got a reputation on Facebook for he answers within a day. So I try to answer. I answer messages. If you see something on there, I wrote it. If you see a message, I'm replying to it. I don't have a staff yet. Because again, I'm begging for money. I don't have any money. So this is grassroots. This is my wife staying up all night making these signs. This is my friends volunteering to videotape this and volunteering to hand out the mic for me. This is what this is. So by all means, please sign up. Please pledge if you're able to. Thank you.
Thank you.